this video, I want to share with you the most powerful habits that I applied in my own life that completely skyrocketed my vibration to a completely new level. And I want to show you how you can also do this in your life in a very easy, simple way to where in maybe a year from now you look back and you can see how dramatic your vibration has changed because you applied just a few of these habits. Now, the habits in my life that changed the most, one of them was for sure back in 2012 when I learned about, and I started learning more about how my beliefs were creating my own reality. And I started to apply the things I was learning. And just to give it reference as well, I was at the time working that job selling women's shoes at Nordstrom's. I felt a lot of resistance. I wasn't where I wanted to be. I had a lot of patterns in my life that were on autopilot. And one of them was just having a 9-to-5 job in general. Wasn't very passionate about it. I still had that 9-to-5 job for 5 years after that. But one of the most initial increases in vibration that I've ever had in my life was when I went through a spiritual awakening in 2012. And it was something that kind of I learned out of chance in a way. I learned about meditation because I was going online and I was looking up for ways that I could not have to take Adderall, which is the prescription that I was given because I had what is called ADHD. And I would take Adderall in order to focus at work, but then the side effects of that were I couldn't eat or sleep that well at night. I didn't have no appetite and I wasn't sleeping good. I was losing weight. Even at one time I remember I took just my prescribed amount of Adderall, and I remember I took it one time at work and I was dehydrated and my hand started twitching while I was helping a customer. I remember the customer was like, "Are you okay?" She thought I was cracked out or something. In a way I kind of was because I was on Adderall, but I was like, man, I got to change this. I feel so dependent on these substances. And at the time as well, I was smoking a lot of cannabis because that was the only way I could sleep at night. Was I'd get off work, I'd go smoke a bunch of cannabis, then I had an appetite, then I could sleep. And I felt dependent on these substances. And then I came across the research on meditation, and it said literally meditation is will help you to release more dopamine and to feel more centered and help calm your energy. And I'm like, okay, well, what are the side effects of meditation? And there were side effects are a general sense of well-being. You feel good about yourself. You feel more centered. You sleep better at night. All of these things that look okay, well, I'm going to do that over that. So then I started meditating. And what meditation did for me is, one, it allowed me to become more aware in my life of the thoughts I was thinking and observe my thoughts rather than react from my thoughts. That's also when I became aware of a lot of the patterns that were in my life from childhood, and I was replaying similar patterns over and over again. But before I get into that even, what changed my life when I began meditating is I remember 2 or 3 days into meditation, first day or two, nothing really changed. I was if anything, more in my head. I was I hope that I was in my head if I think negative thoughts, I'm going to manifest something bad. I hope I don't think negative thoughts. And I ended up creating a lot of resistance. But then I learned how to observe my thoughts. And when I observed my thoughts, that's when the game changer started to happen. That's when I started feeling differently. I started to feel more present. I started to observe my thoughts more. I started to observe my beliefs more. And I started to feel completely different inside my body. And from that point forward, within about 2 weeks, completely quit taking Adderall, and I became I just loved meditation. I'd meditate for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night minimum, and at that time I think I was meditating in the middle of my day too, every now and then. And even at work sometimes, I remember working at Nordstrom's, I'd go into the bathroom at work in a stall, and I would just sit there and meditate. And I just enjoyed it. I just ended up liking the feeling of meditation and just how present I felt. And I literally started to feel like a different person. And I remember within 2 or 3 weeks at my job, people were like, "What's happened to Aaron? I wasn't the same anymore." And it was a positive thing. I was way more grounded. I'm just not taking Adderall anymore. I'm not smoking anymore. I'm just chilling, meditating. And I remember feeling if I, on a scale of 1 to 10, normally felt like I was at about 10 feeling freaking amazing, super, almost euphoric, to 1 feeling like shit. I normally was at about a 3 or a 4 out of 10. And then I started to do Adderall, or I would take smoke cannabis, and move me about to 5 or 6 out of 10. After I started meditating, observing my thoughts and doing that every day and being like bringing the energy back inside my body, I went to like a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. I felt like high all of the time. I felt higher than when I was smoking cannabis and stuff. And I was like, what the hell is happening? I remember walking around my room where I was living at the time, and I remember thinking to myself, I hope this feeling doesn't go away. Like, I hope that I don't drop back down into a 3 or 4 consistently. Like, this feels too good to be true. And the truth is, that became my natural base point. My natural set point became that like 7 or 8 out of 10. Now, the funny thing is it's not that I'm enlightened or anything like that. It's more so that raised my natural base point. Now, my base point can still fall down a little bit. I can get stressed about things, and it can move down to a 5 or a 4, but I don't stay there. I come back to like this solid 7 or 8 out of 10. And then actually like years later after this happened, I ended up going and trying something called plant medicine, which is like ayahuasca. And I ended up doing that like years later. And after I was even on YouTube and stuff like that, which I'll share more about how that like completely shifted my vibration. But I remember that in one of the ceremonies, I got Mother Aya was like, you know how you always say, it was like the energy I got. He was like, you know how you say that you always feel like a 7 out of 10? She's like, well, here's a 15 out of 10. And it was like so much unconditional love that it freaked me the fuck out. And I was like, this is too much. I don't know what to do with this. And I thought I was going to die. But it was just so much unconditional love. And it was so ridiculous. But like this barometer that we have of even 1 to 10, there's probably even more beyond that. But as you raise and elevate your vibration, you allow in more love. You allow in more of a open heart. You allow in more probabilities and synchronicities that are a reflection of that new energy state that you're able to generate. But one of the things that changed my life more than anything was when I began meditating, I started bringing the awareness more inside my body. I started observing my thoughts, and it completely shifted my life. And to a point where I was a 7 or 8 out of 10 until I did Aya, and then I was told, here's a 15 out of 10. And I was also told that in our lifetime, we will have the ability to feel that 15 out of 10, and it will feel normal. It won't freak us the hell out. That's the capacity I believe we're going to have in our lifetime, is to continue to elevate our vibration more and more until it becomes like our natural set point. So back in 2012, learned meditation. I started feeling high all the freaking time, and then I was like, okay, then that became my natural base point. And one of the other side effects of that was then I began to observe and realize that my stories, here's the thing about vibration. I believe all of our vibrations are naturally high as shit. Or I guess not as shit, high as heck. Whatever. All these things are actually on the ground. Like shit might be on the ground, hell under the ground. But your vibration is high as you can possibly imagine. The only thing that keeps you from feeling high vibe is the attachments, the stories, the beliefs, the limitations that you hold on to. And when you let those go, you then naturally raise up. I didn't recognize, but for a lot of us, I believe, we have these inner childhood experiences that we hold on to energetically because we don't forgive. And one of them was even at that 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes at Nordstrom's, my manager of that department was literally like the same personality as my ex-stepmom, controlling, manipulative, protected by upper management, so we couldn't get her fired. I remember one time there was this thing that happened where I had this opportunity to get her fired, but I was like too afraid of going to HR because HR would that was the thing with my ex-stepmom, by the way. My ex-stepmom from 7 to 15, very controlling, very manipulative. My brother and I had no freedom. Weren't allowed to have friends, given a TV dinner at night and a bowl of cereal in the morning. We were very skinny and had to earn going to school activities. If we would have told a psychologist, a school counselor, anybody what was going on, we'd get even more punished. So we just didn't say anything. We just normalized the feeling of feeling trapped. And then at this 9-to-5 job selling women's shoes, the manager talks down to us. She gets away with so much shit because all of us were afraid to go to HR, because if we ever went to HR, they'd protect her and then we'd get in more trouble. Same pattern that was alive. And here's the interesting thing. Okay, so one time, there's a story. One time I was helping a customer, and I have for not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but for some reason, as a dude, I have a big ass, right? So I was at my job, and I was wearing these pants that maybe made my these pants I had, where the manager, her name was Julie, she thought that there were things in the back of my pants making my butt look bigger, so she went up behind me, grabbed inside of my pants, trying to grab receipts, and it was like she was grabbing my ass on camera. There's cameras all around. And there was a customer that was there that was like, what the hell is happening? She was like, what the hell? And she grabbed like a receipt paper out of my pocket and gave it to me. And she was totally like filling up on me, And the customer that was there was super like weirded out. And I could have easily gone to HR and said, hey, look at this. I feel this way. I feel completely uncomfortable, which it was very uncomfortable. And it was uncomfortable more so even for the customer that was like, what the hell is going on? Why did she just do that to you? Why did she just come up and literally like grab you and grab the receipts out of your pocket? And it was just this interesting thing where I didn't say anything. And I then realized, though, that after I started becoming aware of these patterns, I realized that she literally was my ex-stepmom in a way, energetically. Not that I was just projecting it onto her, but it was like literally the same energy. I always had someone in my life that was trying to control me because that felt safe and familiar to me. So one thing that I had to do is I had to complete the past to not continue living in the past. So the way that I completed the past was I had to forgive my ex-stepmom. And this is the interesting thing. I realized that my ex-stepmom was so abusive towards my brother and I and such a narcissist because her dad was the same way towards her. And it was like I was able to understand her a little bit more. I was able to understand this one concept completely transformed my life. People are always doing the best they can with what they've got. They're doing the best they can from the vibration they're at. They're doing the best they can from the level of consciousness they're at. And that was a game changer for me. Because somehow my ex-stepmom rationalized beating and controlling my brother and I. She rationalized it. How did she rationalize it? Well, that's how she was treated growing up. Didn't make it right. I was like, oh, great. And in a way, I was grateful that it happened. Because if that stuff didn't happen, I wouldn't maybe be making videos and trying to help people and like sharing my story. So it was a very positive thing. But at the time, when I was living in those patterns and my manager was there that was just like my ex-stepmom, it was a lot of pain. But what I did is I ended up forgiving my ex-stepmom. I forgave her back in 2012 when I was working that job. And after I forgave her, I completed the past. There was so much energy that left my body. I was able to see that the energy that I was like connected to was keeping it alive in my life. And I became aware of the story. I had a story that said I'm unworthy. I had a story that said that women always try to control me. I had a story that said that I have to fight for my freedom. I became aware of the stories. I forgave my ex-stepmom. And that manager, within 2 weeks of learning this meditation and learning how to forgive, learning this completion process that I ended up completing the past with, guess what happened? The manager got fired. She got fired for something not stupid. I think she got fired for saying something to somebody that was pregnant or something like that. She said something she wasn't supposed to say to someone that was pregnant, and she got fired. And it was like a whole new world. We had all this freedom. It felt so weird it was so weird. It felt so weird when she left. And it felt so weird when my ex-stepmom left my life when I was 15. It felt like there was something missing in a weird way. What really was missing is like, I don't have someone toxic that's controlling me. And then what happened is I forgave, that energy left my life, and then from there were a couple more times that I had the opportunity where something would come into my life with someone trying to control or angry or like a manager like that. And that happened actually. Then another manager came in after that manager that was still kind of controlling, and also it was a dude that was like it was like a guy that was it was a gay guy that was like attracted to me. So he was like it was a whole other thing. And what he would do is he would like be really nice to me, and he would like flirt with me all the time. And I'm like, I'm not, because I'm not gay. So I'm like, dude, you need to stop doing this. This is getting very uncomfortable. And we keep doing it. And he was super nice to me and give me the schedule I want, all this stuff. And then eventually it got uncomfortable. And I was like, dude, you need to stop. And then he got like angry. He felt rejected, and he started like turning on me. And then in like this really weird way, just because I wouldn't entertain that or never did, And I was like, all of a sudden then I ended up just quitting. I just quit. I also thought we were going to ascend into a higher level of consciousness at the time because I became kind of ungrounded into these whole spiritual concepts. But I had to say I ended up leaving. And you know what's funny too is there was somebody that worked that I remember all the 13 people I worked with that old manager that was like super controlling and like toxic. There was we just allowed that to happen in a certain way. Where I remember at one point they hired this guy named Roland. And he was like, she tried talking down to him the way she talked down to all of us, and he was like a new employee. And he literally looked at her and was like, you don't talk to me like that. This is bullshit. And he walked out. He quit. Why? Because he doesn't allow people to talk to him like that. He's like, I don't care if I have this commission job, getting paid a certain amount. He's like, I'm out. And he dipped out. because it was outside of like the way he agrees to be treated. And then all of us in the department probably just agreed to it, and we just made it a part of our lives, you know? But completing the past will change your life more than anything else. Completing the past by becoming aware of the patterns, becoming aware of the stories, and then making the choice to forgive. Forgive yourself. Forgive, let it go. Breath work can be a very powerful way of also transforming this energy and like releasing it. Because when you release that energy, it's like, it's a whole new world. So meditation, completing the past. Another aspect of this though is it's following your passion. Following your passion that's connected to your heart. And this is like what you're maybe meant to be doing in your life. Like, not meant to. I think we could have many passions in our life. But in general, when I started making videos every single day on YouTube, I became so excited. It changed my vibration so much. And it was like years later after that stuff from 2012, then I kind of became ungrounded, went through this whole, like, we're going to ascend into a higher consciousness phase, like ostracized myself from all my friends and my family. Everyone thought I was nuts. And then I went meditating and like reading books and shit. And then I did that for years. And then I worked at Barney's New York in women's shoes, and I worked there for 5 years. And then I realized, like, what if I just start applying these concepts towards my life and actually started being the full-time YouTuber version of me that I knew I wanted to be. I started making daily videos on YouTube. I started being it every single day, no matter what, even while I had a 9-to-5 job. And within 6 months, my whole entire life transformed. And I felt passionate. I loved what I was doing. I was getting up every day. I remember at one point, my peak, I was making 3 YouTube videos a day. And I did that for 30 days, and I was 90 videos ahead on YouTube. Like, imagine 90, every day, I made a video every single day, and for 90 days, I had my whole calendar just completely booked out with all these videos. And it was crazy. And it was like I just got so far ahead, because then once I quit my job, I had all this time. I'm like, I could make like 3 videos a day would take me like an hour and a half to make. I'm like, you're telling me I can work an hour and a half a day, be 90 days ahead on content, and just like do what I love, coach people. That's when I learned how to coach, and like I had some coaching clients. It was just like so much fun. And that's when I started making courses and stuff like that, you know. But when I started following my passion, it completely revolutionized my life. That's when new opportunities came in. That's when I had the opportunity to go to Costa Rica and drink plant medicine like I was telling you about. And all these new opportunities came. That's when my soul family started coming in my life. That's when I met Victor. Everything in my life changed when I started following my passion. And I think because your passion is like one of the highest frequency things and ways of being. And when you're following your passion, you experience a reality that is equal to that high energy state. So if there's 3 things I could share that I believe will change your life more than anything else, it's 1, meditation. It'll completely transform your life if you do it consistently. Every single day, become aware of your thoughts. It's like scientifically proven to work. And I believe, I mean, within my own life, it changed my life more than anything else, is connecting and to myself. There's also something I call the frame technique. It's where you bring the energy in your body, and you feel, you bring the energy back into your body, you feel into your hands and your feet, and you actually feel the separation between you and your environment. And when you feel the separation, the space in between, like me and this tree right here, me and this camera right here, as I focus on the space, it's like I'm able to like actually feel safe in my own body. And the frame technique is like one of the most powerful embodiment techniques I've ever shared. And it's something as well, if you haven't seen or checked out that of the map yet, the map is the magnetic activation process. It's a way of like magnetizing, raising your vibration permanently without falling back into old patterns. If you want to learn more about the map, you can go to aarondowdy.com/map, M-A-P. And it's a free video that shows you step by step how to raise your vibration to a new level. It's a PDF of the video that it's like a course video that explains you exactly how to go through the map process to become the most magnetic version of you. And for this in general, realize that your vibration is like, you get in life for a direct reflection of what your vibe is, and the things that will shift your vibe more than anything else, it's following your passion, letting go of the stories that are holding you back, becoming aware of them, letting go of the attachments that you have, bringing the awareness into your body. These things will transform your life more than anything else. And there's a lot of things we hold on to that when you let go of, it raises you to a completely new level. And one of my most popular videos is 5 things that if you let go of will completely transform your life and raise your vibration instantly. Check this video out right here and watch how much your life changes. Now, I believe that this video can help you understand how to tailor some of the things that you may be doing, and understanding that when you let go of these things I'll be talking about, your vibration will instantly begin to raise. Now, I'm in Sedona, Arizona right now, and